Hey guys, I'm super excited about this episode of the Ripple Effect podcast because I get to spend time with my good friend, Kate Perez. Kate is the executive director of Merivis, an organization that actually is helping transitioning military and their spouses find careers in the tech space. Kate grew up in a family with a history of military service and was raised to value service to a greater good as a way of life. As a senior marketing leader for companies like Dell and Cisco, she learned to harness the power of strategic thinking, planning, and creating a playbook for success. She combines that professional experience with over a decade of volunteering in leadership capacities to nonprofits in the Austin community. She took on the role of Merivis employee number one with ambition and dedication. As a co-founder of the organization, Kate has personally been invested in the mission of Merivis from its inception and ensures its original mission is realized through everything that they do. Kate received a BA in economics and an MBA from the McCombs School of Business at UT Austin. Hook 'em. You're going to love Kate. She is amazing, and let's get going. Hey guys, I'm super excited to introduce you to Kate Perez. Kate and I have known each other for a long time. She is a confirmed Rippler in so many ways. I'm super excited that she has agreed to join us for the Ripple Effect podcast. Kate, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Steve. I'm excited to be here.
I'm the one that's excited. I have been talking about interviewing you for a very long time, and we finally made schedules align and work, which is pretty amazing because you just came off your first summit for Merivis, which is an organization we're going to talk a lot about today, I'm sure. But you look no worse for wear after doing an exceptionally great job for creating an amazing summit. Tell us about the summit. Tell us a little bit about Kate, and let's just dive in.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun week. We haven't even published the results yet, but we had over 250 people register for the event. We had, I think, 190 on at one point, which is great for our first virtual event. Yep. Given that this took place during work hours, the summit was really sort of our first pass at an anchor event for Merivis, which is an organization that my husband, myself, and a friend of ours started several years ago that trains veterans and military spouses for technology careers, namely Salesforce. And it's just been a very wild ride. And we were excited at the idea of having kind of this signature conference, right? I mean, everybody in one of the silver linings of COVID was that, you make things virtual and people can attend regardless of where they are or what their commitments are. And we love the idea of just having sort of an anchor event that brought together content and networking and stakeholders in the Merivis community and in the veteran community, and had a lot of conversation around how to continue to skill up these incredible individuals and set them up for these lucrative and in-demand careers in the tech industry, moving forward. So it was a great time. There was definitely a lot of work. It's great to know that I don't show it. I think I was like a little bit like a duck. We're very calm on the surface, but the little flippers are going underneath the water. And there was definitely a lot of work involved. It was a very short timeline. We were thrilled to have Accenture come on board as a sponsor, and they were very keen to go ahead with the idea of having it during Military Appreciation Month. So we squeezed it in just by the nick of time at the end of May. But it was our first year. We're gonna be doing this again next year, and we're really excited to learn from the first event. And we're so grateful to have you and so many other speakers be a part of it. We got lots of fantastic feedback. You had a very, very well attended session from what the metrics said. But yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks. So this is a great kind of like segue back into sort of normalcy in terms of my job that I love so much.
Well, you do a great job. The event was first class. It was a great experience from both the speaker side as well as the attendee side. And I can tell you just, from my session with Roger Miranda, we just had such an amazing time of back and forth, and the participation by the folks that were there. I mean, people really are committed to the mission that you have set forth for this organization. I'm so proud of everything that you've accomplished in such a short period of time. If you look at it, I mean, you guys haven't been around all that long, and look at what you're doing here for the military
And you were
community.
part of our very first cohort way back when, if you remember that, in August. I think it was October of, I think it was 2015 was our first cohort, and you were one of the lunchtime speakers that we brought in. I brought you into a couple of different, I think, organizations to speak and sort of share, the word that you put together and your book, and this incredible just approach to networking that I feel just resonates so much with people. I actually, I meant to tell you, I went back and looked up, because I've always said, like, me and Steve go way back. We've known each other for a decade. I looked up my first email to you. June of 2009. Oh my gosh. Is when it was, so long ago, after seeing you speak at a Jen Austen event way back when, and reached out and pulled you into the YWA world, and then obviously pulled you into the Merivis world, and you've just been an incredible supporter of us. So.
Well, you guys do great work, and it's easy to support great people because of, it's my honor, honestly, to be a part of it and to contribute some little bit of the ripple to that group, because what you're doing for military and their transitioning military and their spouses is just, it's second to none. And like you said, it's a really interesting concept. Maybe give us, just a little bit of a history of how you came up with the idea. I know you and Hector, have put so much time and effort into this, but the concept, how did it come about, really? I know Hector had military experience. You've come from a family of military, and you've always had this give back attitude about, everything that you've done in your life. But how did the organization really come about?
Yeah, well, so back in 2014 really is sort of when the idea started. Hector was working at Salesforce. He was part of sort of their initial stand-up of this veteran employee resource group, what at that point was called VetForce. And Salesforce really took a leadership role when it came to upskilling veterans and military spouses for this career path. And Hector, being on the inside, saw that they were working with a lot of different nonprofits. And a lot of those were in the Bay Area. Hector, being an Air Force veteran, born and raised in San Antonio. I'm born and raised in Houston. We both lived in Austin at the time. Very deep commitment to our home state of Texas. Yep. And knowing the high population of veterans that were in that state, he looked at me one day. I think he had kind of gotten, he's also a big brother with Big Brothers Big Sisters, and through that program he had kind of gotten reconnected to the military community in Fort Hood. And he looked at me one day, and I remember we were on the road between Dallas and Austin, kind of near Killeen and the Fort Hood area, and he looked at me and he just said, there's this opportunity. He was in the Salesforce ecosystem. He knew there was a talent shortage. People, they couldn't hire people fast enough. They couldn't find the talent. And then he, saw on the other side of the equation, all of these individuals transitioning out of the military that brought so much experience and skills and teamwork and all of those valuable assets that you want to have in a business. And he's just like, we can connect the dots. I don't know how we're going to do this, but I want to do this. And I think anyone who has a spouse has seen that expression in their spouse's face where you're like, this is happening whether I get on board or not. So he looked at me and said, I want to do this. I had a lot of nonprofit experience. I'd worked with nonprofits. I knew how fundraising worked. I knew how program management worked. I did marketing for global tech companies, so I knew that aspect of it. And we brought in a friend of ours, Joe Castro, who's sort of the third co-founder, who is a technical architect. So we brought him in to really sort of work with the curriculum and the technical piece. And we hustled in the wonderful, passionate way that you see people who start nonprofits just to make an impact. It was never, we never had the foresight to know that it was going to become this national staffed nonprofit, which is so incredible to see that we've come this far. It really started out as a passion project. We had our first, Hector and I, sort of sponsored the first cohort to get it off the ground. Nobody knew who Salesforce was. We're like, I don't want to be a salesman. I don't want to be a salesman. Like, no, this is tech.
It's not
this is IT behind the scenes, working on clicks, not code, which is a very easy path to get into technology. And, we still are connected to people from that very first cohort, and to see what they've done with their careers and their livelihoods have completely changed. I mean, we have people who are, putting down payments on a house and coming back to Hector and I saying, thank you so much. You put me on this career path that gave me all of this opportunity. And we went from, again, sort of a passion project in the first few years, doing 1 or 2 cohorts a year. On the side, we all had, full-time jobs. We all had families. We had all these normal commitments. And when we, in 2018, Salesforce approached us and said, we love what you're doing. You have a very high-touch, highly structured model to your training. We have a cohort model, so people go through it in groups. So there's definitely a community aspect to all of the programming that we do. And they said, we want to see you do more of this. What do you need? And I was in sort of a job transition anyway. And we knew we needed staff if we were going to be doing any more cohorts or any more programs than we were already doing. And they essentially gave us a seed grant to hire me on as employee number 1. And since then we went from, 1 or 2 cohorts to 3 cohorts in 18. And I think we did 9 in 2019. We did 17 in 2020, which is incredible. We were actually expanding our programs during a pandemic, knowing that we were part of people getting back to work, into roles that they could do remotely, things that weren't necessarily dependent on, foot traffic, and the whole economy shifted last year, and we were definitely part of the rebuilding of that. So it's been a crazy journey. It's been wonderful. I'm incredibly proud of the work that we do, and I love my job. So it's really fantastic.
Yeah, you've done such a great job. For those of you that'll hear this on the podcast, you'll have to check out this video on YouTube, because you can just tell in Kate's face how much pride and how excited she is for what she does. And, just the enthusiasm just leaps out of the screen. So I'm so proud of everything that you and Hector have accomplished, and been able to, bring this thing not just full circle, but I mean, you've taken it to a completely different level. What do you think the biggest challenge is for folks that are transitioning out of the military, or maybe a military spouse, as they look at tech as a career path? Because I think a lot of the challenges that you find with military is they feel like that experience that they had doesn't translate to the civilian world, but you guys are finding quite the opposite of that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things that, and it's different between a military spouse and a veteran. Military spouses really have to think about something that can travel with them, something that's flexible, something that doesn't mean they have to restart their career every time they move. That's a major factor with military spouses. I think the biggest thing that we see is really just it's a language barrier between the military speak and corporate speak. And I think that is where, if anything that we really double down on, it's helping people understand the value that they picked up in the military and what that means to a business. They automatically assume usually that they don't have the technical skills. We can train the technical skills. It's the character and the teamwork and the problem solving and the ability to deal with high pressure, high visibility situations and manage multiple projects. And all of that is absolutely in line with what they picked up in the military, but they don't necessarily see that. You really have to dig into, hey, you managed, you moved heavy artillery, during your service. What does that mean? That means you can handle really high pressure situations. You can manage logistics. Yeah. You might have been, in a position where you were developing a plan, and a curveball was thrown at you in some form or fashion. That's entire, and you have to just pivot and shift on your feet and come up with a new solution real time. Those are all things that absolutely carry into the tech world. So making that transition is a lot about learning how to redefine your experience and how to position that to someone who doesn't necessarily understand what you did in the military. So it's almost like you've got two different sides speaking different languages. And if you can figure out how to bridge those two, then the sort of aha moments come where you're like, okay, this is a guy who, Sheldon Simmons said it wonderfully at an event we were at a couple of years ago. He's now a consultant in the Salesforce economy. And he had a client who was just like, you never get flustered. Like, we can come at you, we can throw you all of these things and you never get flustered. And his response was like, I've been to war. This is nothing. I can handle this. Yeah. This is not life or death situation. And they're trained to handle that.
That's right.
So I think they bring a ton of skills to the business world. And I think there are also some things where they're learning how to reposition themselves and brand themselves. They've never interviewed for a job. They've always been given orders or given an assignment. They've never had to sell themselves or position themselves. And sometimes to many of them that can feel like they're bragging or something that doesn't quite sit right.
Yep.
And I think that's, especially with your approach to networking, I think that's one reason it resonates so well with them, is it's authentic, it's purposeful. It's not about exchanging business cards. It's really about developing those long-term deep relationships to support someone else in their goals. And these people that we work with at Merivis are so purpose-driven. They're so passionate. They are so much about the substance of what they bring to the table. They're not there to, kind of bring the fluff, and it's very meaningful for them.
Yeah.
They're going to subscribe to things that feel authentic. And I think you certainly speak to a lot of that.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I really, I've tried to impart, especially to your audience, that, the key thing that they have is adaptability. Even though they've taken orders and they've been, moved from job to job, they've had probably more experience than the typical civilian would. Absolutely. In terms of adjusting and adapting to these new environments. They have to do it quickly, right? And they have to learn these new responsibilities. They have to figure out how to get things done. Like you said, the logistical aspects of just how they're trained and the approach that the military on all branches of service is really amazing. And there is a direct application to the civilian world. I own a company, and you've heard me say this before, but we have a software company that we have a guy from a military background, been in the military 20 plus years, came out of the military. I was kind of coaching him at the time to figure out where he wanted to go, what he wanted to do with his career. But he came out with such a lack of confidence in terms of what he really brought to the table. Despite all that he accomplished in the military, he didn't see that necessarily translating to the civilian world. And like you said, the concern about bragging or coming across as too verbose was really a concern. And the more that we dug into his experience level, it's like, look, I have an absolute gym right in front of me. I need somebody like this on my team. And so we finally found a role that has transitioned into, he's now my COO, and he is an amazing individual, like you said, because he can be spinning multiple plates at at various times without letting anything drop. And he has such a commitment to the mission that we have as an organization. Every time I get an opportunity to tell anybody in the tech community about the great work that you're doing, I do, because you guys bring that mission straight in front of someone to be able to help them understand. Look at the assets that are coming out of our military today and what they can bring to the table for your organization.
Yep, I think it's great, especially, and it's not just Merivis. I think there's a lot of players in this space that are not only, on the ground doing the work, helping them with the training, helping them with their resume, but you're starting a conversation that changes the perception of what they bring to the table. And I think that affects, veterans all over the country, regardless of if they're going into tech or going through the Merivis programs. I think just changing that conversation, the perception of the value that they bring, I think that's huge. And that's one of the things that I love getting into when, there's people who have hired veterans from Merivis or from the military community, and they're just like, they're my best employees. I'm like, yes, I know. That's what we like. This is, once you figure this out, you're like, I'm never going back. And it's great to see these people who have given so much in service to our country be recognized for the skills that they had, that they're not starting over. They're pivoting, but they're not starting over, and they have so much to bring. That one of the quickest ways to get a response out of me is to say, well, you don't have any experience, or the veterans don't have any experience. And I'm just like, you are absolutely missing the big picture here. They don't have necessarily the resume. They have a different type of resume than most people, but the experience is far and away over what you would find from someone, especially if you're recruiting from college graduates or people who are maybe a little bit in the younger demographic. What they bring in terms of the soft skills and the character, you can't teach that. No. You absolutely can't teach that. And that's the thing that's critical when it comes down to crunch time. You want people who can, play well and succeed in that space. the technology, the technical stuff, you can train.
Yep.
So I think that's what I love, seeing those success stories, and to see the graduates that come through the program be recognized for the value that they bring.
Yeah, but it's amazing. Just quite honestly, all the people that I've been exposed to just in the times that I've gotten to present, the different cohorts and the different events that we've done, and including this most recent summit, the people are just outstanding, and you want to help them, and you want to be play some small role in helping them get to that next level, because they are so deserving of it, because they've given so much to our country, and they are ready to work, and they're ready to come out, and they're ready to do their next job and perform at that high level for organizations of all sizes. And so highly recommend anybody that's listening to the podcast or may see this video on YouTube, definitely go check out the Merivis website so that you can learn how to get involved and become, more aware of the different programs and opportunities that Merivis is providing our military. It's just amazing. So, Kate, let me switch gears on you for a second, because you come from a tech background. You've been involved heavily in nonprofits. You are a big contributor to a number of organizations in Austin. How different has this been, moving from that space to the nonprofit world, full time as an executive director?
It's been fun. It's been a learning experience. I look back, and a lot of the work that I did, the volunteering that I did in the Austin community, was very much around capacity building. So whether that was an artist or a dancer or a young professional or an emerging leader, everything that I really gravitated towards was all about making people better at what they did, or making organizations better at what it did. I really get excited when I see potential realized. That's sort of what drives me and gets me up in the morning. When I think back, I guess it was probably like around 2008 or so, where I was in the tech industry. I was working 60 hours a week, and very focused, very very lopsided, I think you would say, in terms of my work-life balance. And my mother, she'll never let me forget this. My mother, said to me, why don't you try volunteering or doing something to get plugged in the Austin community? And had she known what a slippery slope that was, I don't know if she would have repeated that in hindsight. But I got involved with Young Women's Alliance, which is how I met you initially. Again, that was an organization that was in very much aligned to what we do at Merivis, just a different audience. It's about personal development, professional development, giving back. And I from there went into a lot of arts organizations, and Ballet Austin, the Austin Symphony Bats. I was very plugged into the young professional group. We did lots of sort of first-time young professional specific events for the Blanton and different organizations. And I like getting things going. Like, I love the idea of either a turnaround story or starting something new, especially if it's an event. That's why the summit was so much fun for me, because it was the first time we'd ever done this event. And, combine that with my education. I went back for my executive MBA at McCombs I started in 2013, graduated in 2015. And I had a conversation with one of our advisory board members where he was like, Kate, all of the work that you've done, starting up new things, growing things, thinking strategically about how to help people become the best that they can be with what their potential is, everything you learned in grad school on how to grow a business, essentially, which is what Merivis is. It's a nonprofit, but it's still very much a business. Yeah. He said, everything that you've done over the past decade has led you to this and has developed the skills for this. So it's been wonderful. It's been incredibly challenging. There are days, just like every job, where you're, sort of beating your head up against the wall a little bit, but it's, when you remember the why and remember the impact and the lives that are changing, that's the best part. There's a lot of moving parts to being a startup. Yeah. We are still, I think, kind of coming out of the startup phase. And it's been great to, really put together everything that I've picked up and the skills that I've learned over the years, and put them all into this one organization and see it be successful.
Yep. Well, knowing you as well as I do, I can never see you ever getting frustrated or beating your head against the wall. I might actually need to get video proof of this one day because you are the most calm, cool person I've ever known. You could have a bunch of things going on at any given time, and you'll be like still the one person to be like, everybody's after you for something, but you'll still make that one person in the room feel like they're the only thing that's on your plate right now, which is pretty amazing. That's why you're such a good rippler. So I'm in awe of all your skill sets, but that definitely your ability to, to perform at a level that surpasses most of us on our best days. I can't see you stressed ever.
Oh, I don't know. I think my husband might disagree with you on that, but he sees a lot of what happens behind the scenes. But it also comes down to just really wonderful people. I mean, the sponsors that we have, the volunteers that we have, the alumni that come back and support our programs as mentors or as coaches. That's part of why I'm able to do what I do, is because we have that many people supporting Merivis, our missions, and our programs. The summit was a perfect example. Without Accenture support on that, I don't know that would have happened. And so it takes a village. I mean, that line rings very true in the Merivis world. And the community that we've built, I think, is also a testimony to that. Is people, they have friends, they see people at events, they see people in Austin at Merivis happy hours, and we had one of my favorite lines. I have a lot of favorite lines, but one of my favorite lines is we had a sponsor at a Merivis mixer, a networking event, maybe 2 years ago, and she came up to me and she said, "You said this was a networking event. This is like a family reunion." And it was such a compliment, because I was like, yes, that's the community that we have. I mean, this is not your typical, business networking style thing. This is really people who have relationships and connection and all of that. I mean, you've come to our events, you've seen it in action. And I think it's definitely something special.
Yeah, one of the things we talked about, Roger and I, during our session was, that question, how can I help you? Everybody in your organization seems to have that as just tattooed on their DNA, because it is absolutely what everybody wants to do. How do I help? Yeah. How do I help? How do I contribute? How do I get you to the next level? And it doesn't even matter if maybe that next level is 3 levels ahead of me. I'm going to do what I can to help get you there. And just the spirit of the community that you've been able to create, I think, is just amazing. It's not just providing like you said, the technical skills and the the education of the, underpinnings of what these folks are going to experience in the corporate world, but it's really how to build that community, that sense of giving, and that sense of purpose. And that's something that I think in a lot of ways that they are probably looking for, because that's something that was pretty near and dear to their heart while they were in the military. So they can see it repeated, and they can expand upon it out there in the civilian world, and be able to find new environments that they can challenge themselves in. I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah, we've had, especially just over the past couple of weeks, I've heard more than one of our graduates, not even to me, just introducing to someone else. They said, "I haven't had a community like this since I left the military," and that just gives me goosebumps. I couldn't ask for anything more than that. And we can get really deep into the programs and the technical training, but the community and the family aspect of it is something that is really an intangible and definitely one of the value adds of the organization. So.
Absolutely. Wow. And that just shows that you're delivering more than just the technical skills. You're really bringing this mission full circle and delivering something that they desperately want and need, especially as you get out in the military. Because I've talked to a lot of ex-military. It's a very it can be isolating, right? And it can be a very concerning, especially if you're not comfortable out there in the in different environments than what you've been in the last several years serving. And so for you guys to provide that, it's kind of like that warm, comfortable blanket, hey, come in, we're welcoming you. We're trying to, help you find your footing. But at the same time, we're also finding your network and helping you build the relationships that are going to be there to support you all along your path. And it's not just because you're doing the cohort or because you're participating this year. We want you to be there continually and come back, contribute, be a mentor, sit on the board, provide your insights about where we take the organization next. I think that you guys have just done a phenomenal job in that regard, and you can see it. Roger, who we did our fireside chat for the session, he is just all in. Whatever he can do, whatever he can, whatever he can offer to contribute to the success of the organization. I think that's just a testament of what you're building.
Yeah. He's been he's been a wonderful advocate for the organization, and he and I we become very, very good friends just since he went through the program, and he is one of those that I know I can go to whenever I need something, some help with something, or I need guidance or feedback, or a lot of times because we're a nonprofit and very limited staff, things happen really quickly, and I have to be able to sometimes get feedback or kind of a green light from people that this is a decision that's the right one, or this is headed in the right direction. And so there's lots of times when I'm doing sort of pulse checking with our alumni, and he's one that's on speed dial to say, hey, this is something that we're considering, what do you think? And he's been a great representative of the organization.
Yep. He definitely is. There's no doubt. Well, so how do people learn more about the organization and get involved, and what do you need the most help with coming into the back half of 2021 and into 2022?
2020 was an interesting year. There was a lot of, for not just for Merivis, for everyone. I think we had an opportunity to really take a hard look at the programs that we were offering, the way that we were delivering them. We moved to virtual, which really challenged sort of the way that our training model was set up, because previously we were, we had in-person aspects of it, which is where the magic happened. You had the water cooler conversations, and, people would go grab dinner after class, and you had those relationships that were built in the classroom, and doing that online is a very different experience.
Yep.
As a nonprofit, there's two hats that I'm wearing. There's the mission of Merivis, which is, to help more veterans get plugged into this in-demand technology field. And the more that we have, help from the community as volunteers, something as simple as sitting down with one of our graduates or students to go over their resume. That's a 2-hour maybe commitment total of working with someone who says, hey, I don't necessarily know how to position my experience for the technology industry or for the civilian world. As an executive director, the support that we have from the public makes all the difference. That keeps the light on, just like everyone else. So the sponsors that we have coming in to support our programs, people who make donations to the organization, to our programs, is what allows us to keep doing what we are doing. 2020 certainly was a tough year in that aspect as well. People, I think everyone, because we didn't know what was happening, this was uncharted territory for everyone. All of the purse strings, kind of got tightened, and Merivis made a very conscious decision to tap into our reserves to keep our programs going, because we recognized that there was so much at stake to get people plugged back into employment and into the workplace. So, sort of the three aspects that I offer as an opportunity to help is, one, support us financially. Sponsorship opportunities abound. We have tons of ways that companies can get involved, especially if you're committed to supporting veteran programs, or you're looking to hire people for your Salesforce practice. The second is volunteer. You can give your time, whether it's, again, if you're a Salesforce professional, you can coach for an 8-week cohort, or you can sit down for 2 hours and go over a resume with someone. There's so many different ways that you can get involved. And then just spreading the word. We're a relatively, like you said, we're a relatively new organization. We are very focused on the substance of our programs, and sometimes the marketing aspect of it kind of gets pushed to the back burner, just because we have limited resources and limited staff. And the support that we get from the public, from our community, really can make a difference in terms of leading to new volunteers, new sponsorships, new applications, people who want to go through the program, getting plugged into those military networks. I think all of that is equally as important to a nonprofit that's looking to grow, which is what our plans are for the upcoming years. It's been, like I said, because of everything that we learned in 2020. 2021 is sort of a regrouping year. It's being like, okay, last year was all reactive. We were just keeping things going. We were launching programs with very little warning. We were just pushing it all out as much as possible to support our community. And this year is a little bit more about taking a step back, being more intentional, growing as an organization, getting, sort of the business aspect of things a little bit more tightened up, and looking for more, ongoing financial support from corporations and from donors and supporters. So we see 2022 becoming a little bit more of the same amount of activity as we had in 2020, but maybe a little bit more intentional, a little bit less reactive.
Yeah. Well, and so how do people find out about the organization to become involved?
Merivis.org is the best place to go. Okay. We're also across most social media platforms. You can, do a search for Merivis or Merivis Vets. You can also always reach out to me, kate.perez@merivis.org. I'm happy to have, field any interest in getting involved or say, hey, I really love what you're doing. I'm not really sure where I can plug in. I have a bird's eye view of the entire organization, so I can usually figure out what the best place is depending on, how you want to support us and get involved in, with what kind of time commitment. So that's really the best place, but Merivis.org is the best place to start just in terms of learning about our programs and the impact that we're making in terms of the military community.
Well, and if you're listening to this podcast or you're watching this video, be sure to go check that out, because I guarantee you the organization needs the support. And there's probably no small contribution that you wouldn't take at this juncture to keep this great work going forward. But if you have an organization or you have a company that is looking to expand and grow, I highly encourage you to reach out to Kate, because they will help you understand how you can leverage some of these resources of the transitioning military and those spouses. And there's just unbelievable, untold resources out there that you can't possibly imagine will bring immediate value to the table for your organization. So I highly recommend you get involved, become a corporate sponsor, ask Kate what else you can contribute. And I guarantee you're going to find some folks along the way that are probably going to become great teammates for your organization. Yeah. It's the work that you guys are doing is just amazing.
Oh, thank you. We love what we do.
All right. Well, hey, thank you so much. We definitely, I can't begin to express how much I have appreciated being involved in the Merivis organization and everything that you've done, to be my supporter over the years. I mean, you and I are great friends, and I'd do anything for you, but I'm just the pride that I have in what you and Hector have done and just where the organization is. There's just not words to express just how proud I am of you guys, and I'm just grateful that you guys bring me along occasionally to do a little rippling in any way I can contribute and help. I'm happy to do it because it's I believe in the mission wholeheartedly.
Oh, and you've been a huge supporter of ours over the years, so we look forward to continuing the partnership and bringing you in along the way. It's a great community to be a part of. They are wonderful people.
They are.
And you've just like you said, you and Roger have become friends, and that was an introduction made through Merivis. So
yeah, it was
the power of rippling, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what we've got.
Well, we'll definitely do this again. I really appreciate you being a part of the Ripple Effect podcast, and for all of our listeners and our watchers, ripple on.